That was amazing. When we were in the locks, that was in Zeeland, Zeeland. That's part between Arnhem and the where we are right now. We are in Middelburg, and then we are right now. They're anchoring here. They're tying up the actual boat. But do you know that the capital is Brussels? It's an amazing day right here. Look at this. They're just tying down the boat front to back. And look at this. We've arrived. Let's go out there and see what we can explore today. Like I always say, in that big giant world that we live in. Let's go.
More about that, and at the Delta Works we will have a stop for taking some pictures for about 10-15 minutes. The mill is privately owned by the restaurants. The guy who runs the restaurant next to it. During tourist season, it's also always crowded with people. It's a small, totally built of wood. Just sticking out above here, you see also the grey-white doors hanging in between the two pillars. And you should imagine that the complete construction where we're now driving over, all the parts have been made somewhere else and like a puzzle put together here on site. Actually the cars that are coming to us, they are driving about a hollow structure for the road. Underneath the part of the road where we are driving, there's nothing. Don't be afraid, it's safe. Later on, you can see more about that. This place is the longest and the deepest part of the three streaming entrances of the Eastern Scheldt. 32 pillars are standing here, and this island, it was in the old times it was a sandbank, and at the start of the war. In front of us you see the Topshuis. That's the building where the storm surge barrier is operated, all the doors. For lifting one door and letting it down about 75 minutes we will need. 65 doors, every 2 minutes a door is shutting down when the storm surge barrier should be closed off. And also all the locks and bridges are operated from this building in the whole province of Zeeland. The next one, the last one, is 16. So 16 and 15 doors. You see that the water is coming out slowly now. It's getting low tide. So the water is streaming out of the doors. They're always open. You should imagine that the storm surge barrier is always open, only closing when the tide will be too high and have a risk for flooding. And there you can see the reason at the other side why many people are coming here. The beaches, the beautiful beaches on the North Sea, and the big forest, the biggest forest of Zeeland. It's not very big, but it is the biggest. Yeah, there are no houses on the beach. There are small restaurants. All the small houses you see, there are only lockers. But I like it. Everyone likes to wake up on the beach. Very natural, the island where I'm living. And we don't like people stay. When you're on the beach, you should be alone with the water and so I actually helped building this structure for one of 5,000 people. But all those pillars, in the middle they are a little bit higher, the doors are a little bit bigger. Concrete connection beams are between the pillars, and when the doors are lowered, you should imagine that they are the top beam you see will be just underwater and closing off the gap between the top beam and the down beam. And under the beam and where the pillars are founded on are big mattresses about 1.5 feet thick, I think, 200 meters long, 45 meters wide, that form the foundation. On top of it is another mattress that's shorter, only 60 meters and 30 meters wide, and that forms the foundation of the whole storm surge barrier. And because those thick mattresses, you can lay them over each other, because then the tunnel will be sand flowing through. So they put it next to each other with a gap between it. But because it was a very expensive project, it was too cheap to call it a gap. So they called it a negative overlay. And I was, my job was then to put the sand and rocks in the same shape as in the mattresses in that negative overlay to close it on and make it without any gaps the foundation for all the pillars. And as the mattresses were laid down, they scanned them to check if they were fully horizontal, and then concrete mats could be made somewhere else here on the island to correct it. And they were put down, and then the pillar came and it was put down. They checked it also. You should imagine that this time as I left the work site, I was inside the pillar. If you walk it, it really sounds like a church. Yeah, let's go drive over later. It was there and that stayed there because the stream, if the curve is too sharp, it goes to the other side, and at the southern part of the island the same structures are there, and there's a whole island disappeared into the water. But you should imagine that all what you see at the right side, all the water, and you see already the Plopper Tower at the horizon at 2 o'clock. There we will go by. And this was all land, very fertile land, and it all disappeared underwater between 1400 and 1581. And the Plopper Tower is an old church tower built in 1468, and the village was left by the people at the end of the 16th century. In 1581 they made this dike, and there was already a dike on it, but they didn't trust it, so the dike was made further for the village. Because sheep are very good to tighten the ground with their small hoofs in combination with keeping the grass short. Also you see in front of us the sand plates that will become dry at low tide. And on these sand plates, you should know where to look, there are the seals resting. If you like, you can get your own oysters. I'm also responsible for checking it regularly. It's always open for the public between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can go in and enjoy the exhibition and the story about the mermaids, and then go up and enjoy the view. If it's very clear, at the moment it's not, because you see at the horizon at 3 o'clock, you see the Zeeland Bridge connecting the island of Schouwen-Duiveland and Noord-Beveland. We will drive over it later, back, when you're going back to the ship. And I have the advantage that I have the key of the tower. So sometimes when I had a stressy day in Rotterdam, I take me a Belgian beer and go up my tower, and then I'm sitting on top of it enjoying the sun going down, and enjoy also a Belgian beer. My zen place.
That's the man cave?
It's my kind of man cave for my own. Also have sometimes with friends, when it's closed, we go up and enjoy some small bites, etc. So, and then enjoying the sun and the view on the some parts will be, I think, 8 to 10 foot below sea level. The deepest part in the Netherlands is, I think, 20 feet below mean sea level. That's somewhere just behind Rotterdam. And yeah, if enough rain falls, we should pump it out to the sea, to the north, the eastern Scheldt. You see at the Bosse Strait, at 1 o'clock, you see one of our 5 pumping stations we have on the island to keep the water that's too much inside, pump it outside to the eastern Scheldt. And this island is fully surrounded with salt and brackish water. And we had rain shortage of about 2 feet to less last year. So every dike in the Netherlands is leaking, and it should be, not too much of course. But silt water, brackish water is coming inside, and then the agricultural land, the need for agriculture, is also silt. So it's a challenge to breed here vegetables that don't like silt environment. That was the nicknamed Fat Tower, because in width it's pretty big compared to its height, and that is because it should be 3 times as high as it is now. But the plague came in. We were at war with the Spanish, the natural harbor silted in, the money was all, so they decided to put a roof on it, and this is it. And why should it be 3 times as high? Because in that time, around the 16th century, if you would show off your wealthiness, all the money you had, you built high church towers. And it should be as high as 130 meters. And everyone says, yeah, that's why. Why is that? Because the highest tower in the Netherlands is in Utrecht, 110 meters. But in that time, Zierikzee had nothing to do with Utrecht. That lay unimportant. The competitive city was Antwerp. And in Antwerp they had a tower is 123 meters. So this one should be 130. But it didn't go as far as that. And as Middelburg has a history that they became rich, black page in history, by slavery, earning money. Zierikzee hasn't to do anything with that. They got rich from trading, fishing, making salt from peat and seawater, and also the production of makeup. And makeup, most of the Dutch people already know and don't know what it is. But makeup is a plant with yellow flowers, about 3 feet high, and deeply red roots. And if you dry them in a certain way, specialized way, you can grind them to a very colorful red powder, and that was used to colorize clothing. It is said that the French army, all the red jackets were colorized by makeup from Zierikzee. But later as those caissons, all 4 of them, are exactly on the place. And this was the day before. This one. So those 2 are placed later. This is still there. This one has been used to close this off. They're actually all put down just before midnight. There's a video inside of the museum at 6 November 53. And then around they built a dike to close it off.
So this is the old transmission radios from 1953, and right over here. And in case of emergency, this is what they're using. And this is an actual organization down here. And as you can see, this is quite unique. And I mean old equipment. Wow. And that's who they are. You can reach out to them. Amazing, amazing.
Afraid that the water would go over the dikes. But at the moment it was predicted that it was the spring tide, the high tide level, it was still outside of the dikes. And they were very happy. We are safe, it's over. But it isn't so, because what happened, you see the North Sea as a funnel shape. And because the spring tide and the wind came from the northwest, the water was pushed up. And the high tide didn't go down. Almost the whole tide it stayed up, and the second tide came over it. And that was too much for the dikes. It really got over the dikes, it swam over the dikes. And in that time, you should imagine, the dikes were built in a little bit different than nowadays. Nowadays, they have not such a steep slope. And in that time, at the outside, the water it was so, but at the inside, it was steep, because they could use more agricultural land. But the dikes broke down, they breached by damage at the inside, because the water got over it, damaged the inside, weakened it, and it was breached. So nowadays, the modern dikes at the sea have also not so steep slope, because the waves should lose their energy. But in that time, most dikes were breached by damage on the inside. And at 12 o'clock, the national anthem was played, and it was quiet. And the next day, a guy who worked in the shop in Zierikzee with, this is actually also the original one. He's now almost somewhere in the 90s. He's now. A few weeks ago, he was here with an ambulance. He was complaining out that the ambulance was driving with a little bumpy. But he was here actually. The guy, the man, as a young boy, he made this with parts he found in the store at the back place of his shop, to build a transmitter to contact other people in the Netherlands to warn them, please help us, it's gone wrong here, we are flooding. And the journalist, he hired a plane and he flew out, and you see it, that's the Harbor Canal to Zierikzee, how it's damaged in several places. Here you can also see clear, this is the inside of the dike, and there's more damage than the outside. Okay, is that many people who experienced the flood were able to donate, to give some personal belongings a place. There was one, you see this little boy, Lane, and he was standing on such an A-shaped pole for electricity, and they were standing up the thing, keeping them as it got to stay there above water. But Lane was too tired, his forces lasted, and he fell into the water, his mother saw him floating away drowning. And later on, she donated the school back to Lane. And there's also several parts, jackets, stories about a baby. Actually, a lifeboat was thrown into the water, and the mother, she just got a young baby. She puts a baby inside, and as she was rescued, she said, here you have, please be careful, my baby is in it. It's the original one. And also personal stories, and they did it very well here in the museum. They collected all kinds of stories from personal experiences of people who they put it down here in some stories. You see the guy there who lost the boat. Good. He was as one of the 12 members in IJmuiden, in the army, and he came back, and no one was hence the blood. They are leading, rescuing people from the roof of their houses. Cable makes the curve to there. You should imagine that Zierikzee, the middle of Zierikzee, is on an old street laying higher, and the surroundings are lower. And the water was on the cave, pushing the floodplains, and they broke down, and the water rushed really into the city, and it came as almost 4 meters high, so it will be 12 feet. Actually, that was in this street where this house is. Someone needs the elevator, please take it. Otherwise, you can go around. People drowned. they are told there on that screen. Personally, I'd like that screen wasn't there. Not for about the stories, of course, but about how you sense the atmosphere here. And if I come back after
This
a
is
tour,
the Remembrance
I stand here,
Hall in memory
and
of all the
only
people that drowned.
be quiet and look at the names. I still know several people who whose parents drowned, or relatives, aunts, uncles, who drowned in that night. But it is very, very beautiful, and it's continuous also when the museum is closed, the name's closed. Lens, and we're growing lens. And there's still pots with vegetables in it. And the story here of the sled. It was flushed away from the other island, and with the streaming of the flood, it went to this island. And as they found out that the people who owned it died, they used it for several years, and later on they donated it to the museum. But it's very rare when we have snowing out nowadays. Truus, she wanted to marry her friend, and her parents didn't agree upon that, but she still wanted to. She loved him so much. She liked to marry him, and she did. She was pregnant, therefore her wedding dress was blue. And she also drowned in that night, and her little baby. Her man didn't. He remarried. Whole world, from America, from Australia, Argentina, Belgium, Greece, France, Nigeria, Norway. All kinds of different same-sex people who came here. Even the Germans, who 10 years before were at war with us, helped us very much to rebuild the dikes and to get everything dry and clean again. Sometimes, as we see what is going on in the world now, sometimes I say we should need another disaster, then we come together again.
Arno, this is amazing. First of all, I'm so happy I met you this morning.
Thank you.
By the way, I owe you breakfast. Okay, so as amazing I'm going to say this, you have a lot to do with this, and you have history. You actually helped build what we saw earlier this morning.
Delta Works, yeah.
What exactly did you do?
Yeah, the Delta Works, after the big flood in '53, we're working inside now the construction that closed off the last breach in the dike at 6 November '53 to then after 9 months of flooding, they could start pumping, and then the government decided to this will not happen again, and then they decided to build several structures, dams, dikes, bridges, locks, to prevent this area from other floods in future.
So this equipment here
Yeah.
is almost similar to what they actually used in the era.
I
Now,
don't know for sure if it's actually used, but this similar equipment is being used in the 50s to first close off the more than 100 breaches in the dikes in the southwestern part of the Netherlands, and later on the building of the Delta Works started at the end of the 50s, and it lasted until somewhere in the late 80s, 90s. That was the Maaslandkering. There are 2 doors. Each door has a construction similar to the Eiffel Tower to close off the entrance of the harbor of Rotterdam.
really?
That's the last part.
So-
the Maaslandkering.
In this, all of this structure right here is part of, this was underwater, all of this structure.
Yeah. No, there was no structure. This structure has been put here to keep the water away. But before here was a dike, and the flood was that high that the water really flushed over it. And then the breach that was caused here is closed off by breaking the stream, putting these structures here, used by the Allies during World War II to fortify temporary harbors. And later on it became part of the dike. And then a group of volunteers, 25 years back, last week was the Remembrance Day, exactly 25 years, they started making a museum because it should be remembered forever.
So when you were building, what exactly was your job when you were building?
Yeah, my job was at the storm surge barrier. Storm surge barrier was built as an open dam, always open, only closing at very high tide or severe storms. And it is built up from all parts who were built somewhere else, like the concrete pillars, etc. 12-floor building, so big, 18,000 tons each. 65 of them are standing in place, and they should have a good foundation. And I helped building the foundation for those pillars. And that's also the reason why I say, if you drive over it, it's safe. I help building it.
You told me the first thing this morning, you said, so I'm in good hands with you,
Yeah.
and I should stay with you
Yeah.
the rest of the week.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
So when you were doing that job, Joe, you know, the job, that's what I meant.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, what was your feeling? It was just a job, right? Now
Yeah.
you're somewhat retired.
Yeah,
And can you
but-
tell me some of the things you told me this year you're going to be Saint Nick? Is that true?
St. Nicholas, yeah, and also Santa Claus. But the strange thing, I'm originally educated as a civil engineer, and keeping this in mind, I'm already working for 40 years in the petrochemical industry, industrial cleaning. But still, I belong here. My roots are here, and I don't know where that comes from.
But see, as we get old, we always have to find that knack. And you said you're
Yeah, of
more
course.
busier
Yeah.
than when you worked on it.
yeah,
Wow. All right. Well, you got a lot more to show me, right?
yeah, so much to show.
This is amazing. But you know something? I owe him lunch, so that's where we're going now.
Arnold,
Yeah.
you got to tell me. You're telling me this is the best salt ever,
Yeah.
and you personally know this is a friend of yours.
Yeah.
If I want to have a fire pit and I want to have
Yeah.
some fish and all that, you're recommending these salts.
Yeah.
Tell me about what they are. 'Cause
No,
it,
this,
it sounds amazing.
It's salt actually made from salt water from the Eastern Scheldt. So he pumps out the water of the Eastern Scheldt, and then he filters it, all kinds of organic material and microplastics out of them. Then under vacuum he's boiling it, it makes a kind of brine, and then he dams it in like a bain-marie. And the first mineral that crystallizes is calcium, and that's he getting out by hand, because the aftertaste of calcium is bitterness, and then you get a very mineral-rich, fresh salt. It's very, very good. All great chefs and I are cooking with it.
And you did say you love to eat.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Well, how can people reach out and get this salt?
Yeah, they have a shop, but I don't know. You see on the stand, Zeeuwse Zouten. If you look at that, www.zeeuwsezouten.nl. But I don't know if they do international selling. But for sure you can try.
You know something? You all heard that. This is going to be off the shelf. They're going to restock. Well, we got to get going, right? Because I promised you a pretzel, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.